I totally just confused everyone. Will everyone please rise? Good afternoon and welcome to the meeting of Rotary Club of Seattle number 4, named for being the 4th oldest club in the world and also one of the largest. I'm Beth Knox, your club president. As we convene today, we respectfully acknowledge that we do so on unceded Coast Salish land, specifically the ancestral land of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot tribes. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with Indigenous communities, but serves as a first step in honoring the land we are on. Here at Seattle 4 Rotary, we enjoy music, singing, and words of inspiration to kick off our meeting. Today, we are fortunate to have our music provided to us by the Salvation Army Band. The band is comprised of volunteer musicians who are actively involved. They're actively involved in Salvation Army programming in the Seattle region and are led by Divisional Music Director John Opina. Following the music, I invite Skip Copkins to share our inspiration for the day.
Please be seated. Geez, after a couple of hundred years of practicing, the band sounds really good, don't you think? You know, I found it really hard to come up with only one inspiration today. So in this season of lists, here is a quintet that I hope will inspire us all. And I checked it twice. So how about Michael Penix, the Husky quarterback? Had he opted for the NFL, he surely would have been a high draft choice with a big payday. But he decided to stay in college another year, foregoing the big bucks and risking injury because he loves the game so much and the team he's playing with and the university. How's about that for some old-fashioned values? Then there's Judah Maccabee. In 167 BC, he led a very small band of Jews to defeat a huge Seleucid army invading Jerusalem to mandate the Greek religion. And they won. That victory being the first historical battle for religious freedom in history, and it's what Jews celebrate in Hanukkah. Then there's President Zelensky, kind of a modern day Judah Maccabee, defying huge odds and leading his country against a much larger foe. I mean, he's a 44-year-old former comedian. Who knew? On April 9th, 2021, a volcano erupted in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in Eastern Caribbean. 26,000 people were evacuated and displaced. You probably don't know that after the eruption, 50 volunteers fed and provided clean water to 13,000 people every day for 4 months. Who were those volunteers? They were Rotarians. And closer to home, in this era of divisive, outrageous, self-aggrandizing, and egotistical politicians, many of them interloper Johnny-come-latelys to our town, how inspiring is it that a local kid who grew up biracial when that was not easy, stayed the course, never made it about him, always made it about the city he loves and now gets to lead. Sometimes the best inspirations are right under our noses, even at lunch in the Westin.
Thank you, Skip. And thank you, Salvation Army Band, for setting the stage for our meeting today. A number of people also stepped up to support today's meeting as greeters, registration and check-in, Zoom meeting hosts, and meeting reporters. I appreciate your engagement to make our meeting experience first class, so thank you. Now, we have a large number of guests with us here today, but I want to start by welcoming our featured speaker, Mayor Bruce Harrell. Welcome. And I know there are a number of guests here with us today from the Salvation Army. Welcome to you. We have 3 prospective members, Jorge Chapa, Anthony Chen, and Jordan Habenek. Welcome. We have 3 Rotary Club members visiting from other Rotary clubs. We have former Seattle Rotary Club president and member of the Federal Way Rotary Club, Paul Ishii. Former district governor and member of the University District Rotary Club, Ezra Tashomi. And a member of the Seattle International District Rotary, David Della. Welcome, David. We have a number of guests who are here with other club members. And as I read your name, if I could ask you to stand, we'll recognize all of you at when I'm finished. We have Will Young, Yuki Inagaki, Bob Simeon, Philip Oxley, Jamie Van Horn Robinson, Andrea Suarez, Nahe Kwan, Asa Tate, Tony Nien Zuhu, Bill Hogan, and Richard Russell. Could I ask all of you to stand, please? Now, for the past few weeks, you've been hearing about the good work of the Rotary Foundation. And today, the Rotary Foundation trustees and I have the honor of expressing our appreciation for a donor who has made a substantial contribution toward Rotary's mission of doing good in the world. In doing so, this contribution honors the Rotary Foundation's humanitarian and educational initiatives. It gives me great pleasure to announce that past Seattle Rotary President and past District Governor Kathy Gibson has made contributions to the Rotary Foundation that qualify her for major donor level. Kathy, will you please come forward and accept our appreciation? Kathy, as a major donor, you are part of a special group dedicated to improving communities both near and far. Contributions like yours enable the Rotary Foundation to carry out a variety of programs around the globe. Together, they promote peace, fight disease, provide clean water, sustain mothers and children, improve education, and strengthen our local economies. In appreciation for your significant investment, the trustees wish to express their gratitude by presenting you with these gifts of recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please join me in thanking Kathy for her generous support? Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, President Beth, and thank you, everyone. I was given an opportunity to speak for 30 seconds. So what can you say about Rotary in 30 seconds? Except we all have our reasons for loving Rotary. And one of the things that I like about Rotary is it lets me do the things I could never do alone. We make a difference in the world when we work together. And that means investing our time as well as sharing in the financial opportunities to make a difference in the world. So I invite you all to join me as donors to the Rotary Foundation. Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
And I will just add to Kathy's great comments. This is the time, we are nearing the end of the year. I ask all Rotarians to please make your contribution to the Rotary Foundation and the Seattle Rotary Foundation Club, Service Club. This is the time that it makes a difference in our ability to get matching grants and continue to do good in the world. Now I'd like to ask club member and member of the Diplomacy Committee, David Woodward, to introduce one of our new members. David.
Thanks, Beth. It is an honor to introduce our new member, Ms. Eunji Seo, the Consul General of the Republic of Korea in Seattle. It is especially exciting to be able to highlight the fact that Eunji is the first woman to have this position in the history of Seattle. Eunji arrived in Seattle this past winter and joined our club in July. She's also becomes our newest member of the Seattle Rotary Diplomacy Roundtable's Blue Ribbon panel, of which there are several members here today. Eunji's career in the Foreign Service began when she joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1995 after earning her BA in Political Science and International Studies from the famed Yonsei University in Seoul, Korea. A few years later, Eunji earned an MA in Political Science from Boston University. Any Boston University grads here? Several years later, she took a post as consul in the Consulate General in San Francisco, so Seattle is her second West Coast city. Eunji has served as Director General of the Bureau of Public Diplomacy and Cultural Affairs and Director General of the 2021 Seoul UN Peacekeeping Ministerial Preparatory Secretariat. Her past assignments abroad other than the USA include Hanoi and Geneva. Eunji has this extensive experience in the fields of public diplomacy. Maybe we should put her to work here. In development cooperation and disarmament. In Korea, Eunji has served as the Director General of the Public Diplomacy Division, Public Diplomacy and Cultural Affairs Bureau, and most recently as the Director General of 2021 Seoul UN Peacekeeping, which I mentioned. In Geneva, Eunji held the position of Minister Counselor, Korean Permanent Mission to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, Switzerland. One of the signature initiatives that Eunji has spearheaded in her first year in Seattle was the spectacular Hanbok traditional Korean fashion shows held at the Museum of Flight, which I got to see, the Rainier Club and the UW. Eunji is married with 2 daughters, currently in school, and the family is greatly enjoying their experience in Seattle. Welcome to Seattle Rotary, Eunji. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you for your kind introduction, David. Distinguished Seattle 4 Rotary members and Mayor Bruce Harrell and President Beth Knox and the distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly honored to join formally the Rotary Club of Seattle, which is oldest, the 4th oldest and one of the largest Rotary club in the world. In particular, I have a privilege to serve as the first female Korean Consul General with a Rotary membership. Thank you. Since I was posted to this job, one of the most memorable moments was to meet Miss Jennifer Jones, the first female president of the Rotary International in 115 years. She said that at the time, her first female chairmanship certainly was an honor, but it marked only to precede a second and a third in the future. More than her achievement, it was especially meaningful that the young women would have a hope and inspiration to think that I could do it too if she did it. Her words rang deeply true with me. Anyhow, I'm very proud that Korea is the second largest contributing countries, just following the US among Rotary internationals. Yeah, so thank you. And I want to share with you with pride that next year will be the 70th anniversary of Korea-US alliance, as well as 120th anniversary of Korean immigration to the United States. I very look forward to the close cooperation between Rotary Club and the Korean Consul General in Seattle to commemorate those special events, not to mention the close cooperation between Korea and the city of Seattle, the Mayor Bruce Harrell. Yeah. Last but not least, I promise to commit myself to building bridges between Rotary, Korea, and Korean Americans in the Pacific Northwest to create strong relations, increase understanding, and serve the critical community needs. Thank you again for my formal introduction. I wish you all the best, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you, David, and welcome, Onji. We're thrilled to have you join our club and happy to have you be part of this. Now I'd like to introduce our short program speaker. Major Jonathan Harvey is General Secretary for Northwest Division supporting Salvation Army operations in Washington, Northern Idaho, and Western Montana, and has been in Seattle for almost 7 years. Major Jonathan also serves as the King County Coordinator, providing strategic leadership to multiple programs throughout King County, including 5 multi-generational community centers, 5 shelters, and a range of other vital social programs. Major Jonathan has been a Salvation Army for 16 years and has served in leadership roles in Arizona, California, and Washington. He received an AA degree in ministry from the Salvation Army College for Officer Training and a bachelor's degree majoring in leadership and ethics in from Nazarene Bible College. He serves alongside his wife of 28 years, Major Vicki Harvey, the divisional secretary for program in the Northwest Division, and has 2 children, Zachary, who is a firefighter, and Mackenzie, who is in college in Kentucky. Please welcome Major Jonathan Harvey.
Love doesn't discriminate. It doesn't pick and choose. When there's so much to fight against, love fights for. When others flee, love runs toward. And when darkness prevails, love doesn't despair. It never feels too small or too weak or too powerless to help. Love knows its worth and remembers its strength. Love isn't pro this or pro that, but proactive and protective. It's never quick to rage, but always quick to courageous compassion. Love gives everything and expects nothing. For 156 years, the Salvation Army has loved all who feel lost. With your help, we'll never stop.
Fellow Rotarians and Mayor Harrell, thank you for the opportunity to be with you today to share a few thoughts on the work of the Salvation Army. Love Beyond is a national Salvation Army message behind everything that we do over this year and for the year ahead, and it means exactly what it suggests. We are committed to loving people beyond their circumstances, and after 130 years in Seattle, I feel like we're just getting started. Love Beyond means caring about the individual and not the circumstances that led them to despair. Provide the help that people need for today and to cast a vision for the future and of what tomorrow could bring. In Seattle and throughout King County, Love Beyond looks different at many of our various 16 centers. To get a sense of what I'm talking about, I want to share with you first about Tracy. Tracy's parents divorced when she was a child. Although she grew up with her parents and they loved her very much, and so we were surrounded by family, Tracy had a secret. She had been abused by a family member as a child. She carried that secret and that burden with her until she was 27 when she told her family. A friend suggested to her that to numb the pain and to numb the darkness that she felt and the anger that she experienced, that she should take some pills. That led to oxycodone, which led to heroin, which led to meth, and to a complete destruction of her life. Hiding her abuse taught her to lie. Depending on drugs taught her to give up. Between stays in institutions and jail time, Tracy would frequently tell her son that she wouldn't be going anywhere anymore. But one day, he said something to her that caused her to turn around, and it stopped her in her tracks. "You keep saying that," he said, "but nothing ever happens." That's when she turned to the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army for Tracy was a place where she was loved unconditionally, and nothing was asked of her in return. She found people who would surround her with the tools that she needed and the resources that she needed to find a new path. Our team didn't care what had led her to the circumstances that she found herself in, just where she was going for the future. And Tracy learned how to love herself again, how to be accountable, how to be reliable, and how to be employable. By her own admission, she would not be the woman she is today if the Salvation Army had not loved her beyond her addiction. 3 years later, Tracy is thriving as a real estate management leader in this community. Her son is in college. She visits him frequently. She attends his football games, and nothing in this world is more important to her than keeping her promise to her son. If you've not visited the Sodo shelter that we operate, we'd love to provide you with a tour sometime, and then you can see what's happening on the inside of the building. You see, it's clean, it's safe, it's quiet, and there is hope in the air within that building. Success is being achieved, and individuals are being readied for housing. I was on site a little while back to participate in an event, and I'd taken a few of the individuals from our addiction recovery program. One of the directors, an individual who has lived experience, an individual that was a former addict, had gone through our program and graduated from it, saw the individuals who had accompanied me, and it was like a grand reunion. You see, just a few months prior, one of the individuals that with me had entered the Sodo shelter. After 20 years, absorb that, 20 years of being on the streets. He was loved beyond homelessness. He was offered an opportunity to change the trajectory of his life. And he went directly from the Sodo shelter to our addiction recovery program, where he was thriving. The reunion was touching, and yet another example, another reminder that every day individuals from all walks of life are being loved beyond the barriers that have held them back from a fulfilling and meaningful life. And then there's the Pike Street shelter, where women are offered a safe and secure place of restoration. But you'll also find a hub for our domestic violence advocates and who are loving people beyond domestic violence, standing by survivors of abuse during court appearances, walking alongside them as they establish the appropriate documentation they need to care for themselves and to work in this community, supporting them as they find housing, as they work to begin to carve out a future for themselves away from their abuser. Downstairs, you'll find a client choice food pantry where people are able to go shop and get the items that they need for themselves and their family that are appropriate for them without a cash register at the end of it. That's loving people beyond food insecurity. You may have seen our street level vans on the streets of Seattle. They're part of our mobile outreach program, where 4 teams of 2 caseworkers travel the streets of King County looking for unhoused individuals and unsheltered individuals who need our help. No waiting for us, for them to come to us. We go to them. It's a partnership with law enforcement, with public transit, and with multiple agencies. And our teams are finding individuals that need a hand up and into permanent housing. From our custom design mobile offices, our teams identify the barriers that are preventing someone from being housed and entering into homelessness. And then we love them beyond their RVs, beyond their tents, beyond their tarps, beyond their cars, and into permanent, safe, stable environments. Our teams have housed over 500 people this year alone. And with the current trajectory, I believe that in 2023, they will house over 1,000 individuals through that one single program. Street level, thank you. Street level loves families and individuals into permanent solutions and ensures that they stay there. Coupled with exceptional programs that we operate in partnership, we're very grateful for our partnership with the City of Seattle, with King County, the Regional Homelessness Authority. The Salvation Army is tackling homelessness from every direction, and lives and lives are literally being transformed on a daily basis. We're also seeing a great success in our recovery program. It's a program that costs the individual absolutely nothing. But when you look at the national average of how many people, when they go through a recovery program, stay in recovery, our averages are 4 times the national average. When individuals leave the program, they are ready for housing, they're ready for employment, and they are prepared to take the next chapter of their lives. We're loving veterans beyond hopelessness, providing a place where veterans are honored for their service, where they're valued, where they're respected for their sacrifice, and loved beyond their current circumstances towards a future housed and hopeful. This Christmas, the Salvation Army will ensure that thousands of children have a gift under the tree and the knowledge that someone cared. I could go on. I could spend a lot more time, and I only have 8 minutes. I could tell you about our after-school programming, that we're providing safe places for parents, children with parents who are working 2 and 3 jobs. I could tell you about our meal programs, our senior activities, our youth activities, but my time is drawing to a close, so I'll leave you with this. Love Beyond is our commitment to you that every dollar invested in the Salvation Army programs will provide a hand up and a way out beyond people's current circumstances. So no matter where they came from, they have a future. We're grateful to our Rotarian partners who provided, built beds for us at a Soto shelter before they opened, and contributed funds to replace equipment in our kitchens that were beyond repair. As you heard earlier, we are fighting with courageous compassion right here in your community and loving people beyond their current circumstances. Our commitment to you, we refuse to stop. So, would you mind picking up the bells that are in front of you? Because it is the Christmas season after all, and our kettles are outside. So please ring the bell and make a commitment yourselves to love people beyond their current circumstances this Christmas. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for all the amazing work that you and your team do for our region. Now, on to our main program, after which we will have time for Q&A, as always. Here at the Westin, we will have roving microphone handler Kathy Gibson, as well as Jen Gladish, and she's going to do double duty with monitoring the Zoom chat as well. So for anyone who is online, please put your questions in the chat and we will pull those out as well. Now, here to introduce our main speaker is James Wong, club member and the co-founder and CEO of Vibrant Cities. James.
President Knox, fellow Rotarians and guests, I'm honored to be able to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mayor Bruce Harrell. There's some things that I think many of us already know about him. First, biracial mayor, first Asian descent mayor, valedictorian of his high school, Garfield. Now I'm a Cleveland Eagle, okay, so I don't hold that against him. He went to UW undergrad and then UW Law School, played on the Husky football team, won the Rose Bowl during his time. Yeah, and was most valuable defensive MVP, defensive player of the year when they won. He was a very successful attorney and businessman for tech, telecom, wireless companies, was a 3-term city council member and president of the council, voted twice by the council. That happened before. And he's been married to the love of his life, Joanne Harrell, who herself is a very successful executive. They have 3 beautiful children and is even a proud grandfather. So in short, Mayor Bruce has been a winner all his life, okay? But here's some things that you may not know about him. So Bruce, when he was in high school, when he graduated, valedictorian, captain of his football team, he got courted by all the best schools. He was deciding between Harvard, Stanford, and UW. It's agonizing. He asked his high school coach, told me this story, he asked his high school coach, hey, what should I do? and his high school coach asked him, "What do you want to do in life? What do you want to do in life?" He said, at 18 years old, as a mixed Black and Asian kid growing up in the inner city, Central District, he said to his coach, "I want to be the mayor of Seattle." Damn, brother. Okay. At 18 years old, what Black kid can dream of that in the 70s? Or Asian kid. And he did, and he was both, right? And he did that. So here's a man with true heart, true vision, and a true calling. So my oldest son was faced with that decision, Harvard or UW. He didn't want to be mayor, so he went to Harvard. No, I'm kidding. But he did, okay? So, but I have a younger son who's at UW, so we do have a husky in the house and myself. But seriously, Mayor, I and our entire city are super grateful you made that decision at such a young age, fulfilled that dream, and it's now our beloved mayor. You came out of retirement to serve our city, fulfill an impossible dream, and now you did it. You are a mayor, right? Another anecdote I want to share is when he became mayor, shortly after he became mayor, I went to meet at the mayor's office. My office is in Chinatown, and I walked from Chinatown to the city hall. Took about 20-minute walk. You know what I saw when I took that walk? No tents. I did not see any tents, and that's notorious for that. And so I love serving this mayor because I feel our mayor is serving us. I know it's not about him. For him, it's about us, our people, and our great city. I look forward to you doing a lot more for our city. I know your legacy, part of your legacy, you have a great legacy for us, but part of it will be that he's a mayor that cleaned up our city and took us to the next level. Is that right? So Seattle Rotarians, please stand and give a warm Seattle Rotarian welcome to the mayor with the highest approval rating of any major politician, the 57th mayor of Seattle, Bruce Harrell.
Check 1, 2. James, thanks for that introduction. Mr. Mayor, it's great to see you here.
Thanks for having me. Pretty excited.
And I feel like this is a great match up here. We have an academic All-American who had offers to play football in the Ivy League, won the Rose Bowl, and on this half of the stage, we have a guy who bowled on the Washington State University bowling team. So, wow. You know, I was in the top 6. I got to travel with the team. You know, I was envious when I read your bio earlier today, Mr. Mayor, but as James mentioned, I don't think there's anyone in this room who's not proud of what you've done. I don't think there's a period in our city's history that's more challenging than right now. I guess I just want to first start with the question, what compelled you to get back into politics to lead this city at such a difficult time?
Well, thanks for the question, and thank all of you first for the incredible work you've done in building this city, building this region, building community, building and implementing values that will help me as the mayor help lead the city. And I want to just lead with that. And I was going to try to integrate it more smoothly into an answer, but I wanted to get that off my chest. And I also want to tell Jonathan Harvey that every day I seek inspiration. I'm looking for him. Every day I seek inspiration, and you gave me a bundle full with love beyond. I'm going to have my lawyers contact your lawyers if I can incorporate that into our city. I don't know if you hold the rights to that phrase, but that was very powerful. Now to the question, quite honestly, many of you I know, I see a lot of friends out here, and my wife and I looked at the city, and not only the city, but we looked at what was being said. We looked at the trajectory. And we heard rhetoric that for me, quite candidly, was intolerable. And I saw radioactivity in the conversations. I saw yelling and not listening. And quite honestly, I was in a pretty good place in my life. I tried to give this city 12 years, 2 terms as council president, everything that I had. And I did some great things and I probably had fallen short on many things, but I gave it all I had, as we would say. And I said, my wife said, you know, I don't know if I could stay the next 30 years with you if the wrong person's in office and we continue to go in that direction, because I'm going to have to hear you. And I started thinking about it. And, you know, I said, you know what? Seattle now is at a point where it is being redefined. How we come out of COVID, redefined. How we come out of the race and social justice, redefined. Our spiritual decay, redefined. Our business environment, redefined. Our public safety strategies, redefined. I think back in 1962, a similar thing sort of happened. Who were we going to be when we became big boys and girls? And people said, we're going to be a city of innovation, a city of creativity, a city of compassion. So I said, not, you know, if anyone's ever played sports and you've sat on the bench, I've sat on the bench before. You sort of root for the team and you try to be the person that's a good cheerleader, but darn it, you want to get in the game. I don't know how the bowling world works. You're watching other people bowl the ball and you're thinking, I want to do it.
I'm sorry that I brought up the bowling thing now.
Okay. I never figured out how to put the hook on the ball. So the curve.
Well, we
there.
can talk.
Okay. But I said, let me get in the game. Let me get back in the game. But most importantly, let me bring others into the game. And I have a team, and I just hosted 30 mayors here in Seattle. I have an executive team, bar none. I think it's the most talent I've recruited. And when you look at even my transportation director and my parks director and many of the people I brought in, I'm really good at bringing in talent and selling this city. And so I said, not only do I want to get back in the game, I want to bring some other people who might have been historically left out of the game, by the way. People that are unashamedly, well, I'll say it in a positive way, people who love the city as much as I do and will fight for the city and fight through the noise. And that's why I made the decision. And I, quite frankly, I love it. I love this job. I love having 800,000 people telling me how to do my job. Oh, yeah. But that's why I wanted to make sure that I could play a role in the redefinition.
I want to jump into the city budget in just a second, because I think that really is a great jumping off point to your priorities for the next 2 years. I helped with the Chamber of Commerce Regional Leadership Conference in the fall and found out that 40% of, I don't know if the number's still true, but 40% of workers have returned to offices in downtown Seattle compared to pre-pandemic numbers. I'd like to know what the current situation is and what's being done to try to get more people back to the office in Seattle.
Sure, a few things. Number one is, I think we have to acknowledge the fact that the workplace will change. And I'm going through an effort right now with many of you and many civic leaders on what the new downtown looks like. The fact of the matter is, with consumer habits and e-commerce and other forms of commerce, things have changed. And so then the question becomes, how do I help small businesses? What do I do with open space? What do I do with daycare? What do we do to rejuvenate and make it more active? So you're going to hear in the next few weeks, and I have to remind all of you, and I say this everywhere I go, for the last 12 months, for my first year, I implemented a budget that I inherited. I need to make that clear because many of you are business leaders. What I had to do was the hand that was given to me in terms of systems, policies, money, et cetera. I just got a budget approved. So coming into next year, that's our budget, okay? So having said that, that's sort of, I guess, my disclaimer, because I don't, if you are, again, we're gonna talk team sports. This is a team in here. If you lose something, you don't blame everyone else on the team. You take responsibility for it, and you figure out how you get better in the next game. By the way, I went to the last Seahawks games, and we take on 49ers. Let's hope we learn something there. So I take that approach, and what we're going to do to activate downtown is you're going to hear us call it DAP, Downtown Activation Plan. And so what we're going to do is look at a lot of our community-based organizations. We're going to have coffee corners. We're going to have LED lighted kinds of platforms, if you will, so I could bring people to congregate downtown, people who want to have coffee. I'm calling them coffee corners. We'll have mid-ambassadors, we'll have police officers outside of their car, and we can illuminate and activate. I'll bring in social workers and those who are very skilled at helping people with health crises there, and we will activate it. And we'll also work with all of you on what does that mean for your employees and your work colleagues. You know, I am, again, unashamedly a cheerleader for the city, and I want a city where it's safe for everyone. The fact of the matter is there are a lot of health issues, and so the health is the space of the county, and so I'm working very closely with the county in terms of how they can sort of double down my efforts. The fact is this is the economic generator. This is, if any of you have toured the new convention center, the Seattle Convention Center, you know, we worked hard to get the All-Star games here. Beth and other folks got the FIFA Cup here. We are working to continue to put Seattle on the map. That's why I hosted 30 mayors here for the last 3-4 days here. They just left Sunday. So we're going to activate this city, but we're going to do it in a manner of compassion. One of the other things, and I'll make my answers a little more brief so you can get more than 3 questions in. One of the things I took it upon myself, again, which is unprecedented, is I met with every single police officer. And in addition to our downtown activation plan, we have a public safety plan. You may recall in my homelessness plan, I put it a dashboard. I showed people where people are unfortunately unhoused, where crime occurs, where we're trying to do outreach, where we can improve. I want to open it up for you. I'm not going to be bashful in showing you the hand that I'm dealt. In our public safety plan strategies, talking to the officers, I'm letting them know what kind of officer I expect. They have to know what's coming from the top. And I've told them while I'm recruiting, and we got our recruiting plan approved, a new way to recruit, I said, it's important for you to know what I think this city is hungry for. We are asking our officers to do things that they are not trained to do. When you're talking about the fentanyl crisis, you're talking about people and having mental health crisis situations, you know, that's not what they were called to do in many situations. And so our approach, creating a third department of responders, an unarmed response, working in conjunction with mental health counselors, the county, and our police officers, that's what you're going to see. And that was all not in the budget that I inherited, but darn it, it's in my budget. So we're going to get our city back in terms of activation, because it has to be layered upon public safety. And I got to repeat that. I want to acknowledge that it has to be layered upon public safety. And any other mayor that's been in this city that told you otherwise, perhaps that was their vision, and I won't even pass judgment on that. But that is not my vision. And when I talk about safety, and you talk about my unique experiences being biracial, the reason that becomes particularly important is when I look at you, quite honestly, I see, Jonathan, I love beyond race, because I don't see it. I've never seen a lot of people look like me. Dare I say as good looking as me. I'm not going to go there. I see what we have in common. I don't care what religion you are, what race you are. And I will guarantee you what we have in common is everyone wants to feel safe. You want your children and your loved ones to feel safe. That goes beyond race. So I have to do that. And this concept of defunding the police or minimizing, well, if we have the right kind of police, compassionate police, understanding that no one should lose their life over failing to using their blinker. I tell my officers that. It's a jaywalking ticket. There really shouldn't be fisticuffs involved in a jaywalking ticket. That's the officer that I want to see. But when I see open air drug dealing and violence, I can't have that on my streets. So I don't say that. I can't, I need boldness in my leaders. That's how we're going to get our city back, quite frankly. And that's the That's the UW Huskies in me, baby. That's the linebacker in me right there. I tell my friend Doug Baldwin, who's a dear friend, and by the way, if any of you know him, he chose, you think my job is difficult. He took a leadership position or a membership on the clemency board. And I'm sorry, Mark. This is the last time I'm a
This
risk.
is the easiest interview I've ever done.
Okay, Mark, I'm sorry, Mark. I brought this particular event, my dear friend, Gerald Hankerson. I want to talk about Gerald for a minute, who's the president of the NAACP, the state president. Can I share this? Okay, he works for me, so I asked for permission, but Gerald was incarcerated for 23 years, sent to life without the possibility of parole. And he was, when you went into custody, how old were you, Gerald? He was 18 years old, was never supposed to see the light of day for homicide that he had nothing to do with. At the wrong place at the wrong time, around two people that said he did it. He didn't even know who was murdered. He didn't know the murder had occurred. And after 23 years, he was given clemency. And people had told the truth and people had recanted. And he's spent a lifetime from being released for helping others. Certainly the trauma he had as a young man going in. And I say that Doug Baldwin now is on the clemency board, where he will be looking at people who have been incarcerated for 30, 40, 45 years, whose father is a police officer, by the way. And I turned to Doug, although he's half my age, for advice on how to navigate or calibrate the strong enforcement and effective piece that I want with a compassion piece. And he will also do that as a clemency board member. And so if any of you know him, give him kudos. There's an article, I think in the Times last week that talked about this very difficult role he's going to face. And that's true public service. And I want to thank him for that.
It's an amazing story. Yeah. And Gerald, it's great to have you here with us today, Gerald. So, Mr. Mayor, let's talk a little bit about the Seattle Police Department. It's my understanding that the budget in 2022 was 355 million. The budget for 2023 will be 370 million. You talked about a new arm of the police department. Well, what is the right size for the Seattle Police Department? I've talked with business owners who almost on a daily basis have their tip jars stolen and merchandise stolen, and people simply walk out. It's the kind of crime that can't get a police officer there based on the priority levels of it. But what's the right size for the police department, and how can we fully bring to bear that security and safety that you talk about?
Yeah, we have 1,480. 1,480. Next question. I'm telling you my answers are going to be no, I'm just kidding. So we have about 950 now. And I use that number because when we look at officer pro rata to citizens and residents, we try to look at, New York City has 36,000 officers, right? And so that's we're not going for that. But in addition to the 14, I'll say between 1450 and 1500. In between of that, we're creating this third department, which is going to be like a certificated, very trained kind of officer. We don't have that now. We have community service officers, we have park rangers, but this is a little step beyond that. And so we're going to create that as well. And I interviewed last week 4 people to head that. It'll be a third chief. We've got a fire chief, we've got a police chief, this third chief. So I interviewed 4 people from around the country. So I'm creating that. And quite candidly, I had to fight hard to keep that in the budget the way I sort of wanted it. There were little tweaks here and there. But again, remember, I inherited an old budget. This is my budget. So in addition to the 1,485, 1,500 officers, we're going to create the third department. And we're also doing some things with your Downtown Seattle Association, increase the number of mid ambassadors to integrate with these officers. And working with the county, because they have a lot of mental health counselors that I want, quite frankly, I want them literally downtown helping me address some of the health crisis. So you've heard me talk about one Seattle. This is a one Seattle approach where I put all hands on deck. But to answer your question, I want close to 1,500 officers.
Okay. We're going to have to whiz through the budget. Affordable housing, biggest one-year investment, $250 million. Private companies like Amazon and Microsoft are kicking in hundreds of millions of dollars. Homelessness, we're now in sort of a regional approach to solving that with the Regional Homelessness Authority. 95 million to that. Sounds like we're starting to develop a real team when it comes to housing affordability and homelessness.
That's the key. And so, you know, when I had these 30 or so mayors here for the last 4 days, I said, you know, I have been given a better hand than most of you because I have these great employers here. But not only are they great employers, that they are giving back to the city. And quite candidly, I've been prodding that a little bit because I sometimes think they're taken for granted that we've had organic perhaps growth, not a result of direct policy implementation, but we've been lucky that we've had some very creative people here. And they being the employees, mid-management and top management and executive level, they understand that we are a wealthy city. That's the fact of the matter is that's in a meritocracy that occurs. And many of us are beneficiaries of this climate here. But they also realize their corporate social responsibility, dare I say the mission and purpose of Rotarians, that they understand it's all about giving back. Heck, most of them have more money than they could spend in their lifetime. So in housing strategy, that I grew up in a city where, and I know many of you are old Seattleites like me, where, you know, a teacher could live in the city, a food service worker, a social worker, a janitor could live in the city. I mean, they need $100,000 to come up with a down payment, right? So we're working with these new partnerships to help in every way possible to make sure that we have that demographic here. And we're leading the way. And so I created a new housing cabinet in our city. It was never done before. We're looking at the housing levy that I'm going to put on the ballot with my colleagues, how we're going to approach that and what we're going to ask for. So we're fighting for those that need housing. And quite honestly, okay, I'll shut up there. I get too excited. I get excited, Mark. No, I'm not going to shut up there. So what we have to do is just be transparent with everybody. And we have to say, yeah, I want rich people to live here too. But I want people with limited incomes to live here too. I don't want to price them out. And our policies reflect that. And quite frankly, our leadership reflects that. You look at who I put in charge of our housing, for example, both on the executive level and the department level. These are people that have fought for others. And so that's the best thing I could do is make sure that those that work for me or under me carry the same values. And they're not bureaucrats and they're not saying no. They look and fight for ways to say yes on our housing strategies.
Right, super fast lightning round, like in
Okay.
super fast, like 5-second answers.
5 seconds.
When the world comes here in 2026, what type of city do you hope they see?
Oh,
5 seconds.
exciting, vibrant, safe, clean. All of those things we are putting in place to be sustainable right now. For me, it's about sustainability.
What happens on the best days at work? Quickly.
Best. I'm not in the newspaper.
What does a bad day look like?
A bad day looks like I get the email that someone's been killed or someone's been injured in my city. That's a bad day for me.
What lesson did you learn on the football field that serves you as mayor?
Don't make excuses, do the hard work. There's no substitution for hard work. So if you're going to work with me, get up early, go to bed late, because we fight. But we fight love beyond fighting, because we fight based on love. You know, you wake up like this, Jonathan, that's not sustainable, right? But you wake up like this, you wake up like this, that's sustainable. That's the lesson I learned on the football field.
So I went a little long, so.
Yeah, Mark, come on, your questions, man. Can a brother get some mic time, Mark? Come on, man.
Yeah, my mother used to say that I spoke too much when I was a kid, and she was right. I want to go back to what James started with. I'm just blown away that as an 18-year-old kid, you had the vision that you did. And I'm guessing that your mom and dad had something to do with that. Your mother was interned in a Japanese American internment camp. Your father was one of the first Black linemen for Seattle City Light. What kind of discussions, and we'll wrap on this, what did your mom and dad instill in you that's living right there today?
So Mark, it's a good time for me to close. And so I'm not afraid to say this publicly. And by the way, if any of you come to my office, you'll see an article in the Seattle Times that says when I was 18 that James talked about, because you say something like, then, you know, that's the lawyer in me, prove it. Well, there's a Seattle Times article where it says in the first paragraph, I said I was going to be the mayor. But what my mother and father taught me, both of whom were not college educated, I was so privileged. There was a lot of love in my house. I saw Jonathan Bridge. They were bulldogs too, by the way. Yeah. A lot of love in my house. And they said, man, you could do everything. I said, you know, well, Quincy Jones was in my mom and dad's class. And he played trumpet. My dad was and played saxophone in a band. I says, well, I want to be a trumpet player. And by the end of the week, I had a trumpet. I could barely hit a note, but I thought that was the thing I wanted to do at 9 or 10 years old. And so I was privileged because I was poured into that confidence. But I would cry sometimes because I was called names that were intolerable. I wouldn't put anyone through some of the experiences I had. And I learned that meanness doesn't know a color. I don't blame any of you for anything. I'm not going to blame you for anything. And so I grew up in this dichotomy. I had to be tough, right? I was a linebacker. You don't run away from contact when you're a linebacker. You tried that, they just hit you from the back. It doesn't work very well. But I also learned that through the Fellowship of Christian Athletes that my strength comes from a position of love. So you're strongest when you're on your knees, is what my dad used to tell me. And so what they taught me is, heck, I could do whatever I wanted. And as soon as and the city's been so good to my family. And so I want to thank you, Rotarians. I want to thank you because, number one, it's easy for me to talk. I get energized. It's hard sometimes to listen and then go take these lessons out and do something about it. And you're doing both. You're doing the hard work right now. And I know many of you, you love this city as much as I do. I know you do. So the lessons my mom and dad, both of whom died close to each other, they didn't live to be able to see this day, but they're right here. And it was love beyond race because they were of different races. That's what it was, Jonathan.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
That's fantastic.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Doc.
Mayor Harrell, thank you. Thank you for being here with us today. And in appreciation of the generosity of your time, our club has donated 600 servings of healthy produce in your name to Harvest Against Hunger. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Mark. That was masterful. Sorry, we didn't have time for a Q&A. We're going to wrap things up here so we can get you on your way. I would like to just acknowledge our gold sponsors, Liz Powell with Remax on Market and longtime Rotary supporter, Bob Alexander. And here for just a few quick holiday updates, we have Nicole Klein, our VP of membership.
All right, super quick. So if you weren't inspired by all you heard today, this Saturday, 9:30 to 11:30, you can help out Wellspring. We'll have that in our newsletter, and then on your table they have little tags if you want to give back in another way. And then also this Saturday we have the Seattle Mariners, which is our subgroup. Anyone can come. I see Linda and Stephen. If you want to come to our party, it will be at the Elliott Bay Seattle Yacht Club, not the Seattle Yacht Club. And then finally our big holiday party that we have, which will be next Wednesday. We will not have a meeting. We'll be partying it up at the Queen City Yacht Club. We have singing, we have cookies and a raffle. And what else? Oh, we have jazz, right? Okay, so you guys got to come. About 60 are signed up. We need more. Come.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so we're going to give you the really speed version here. As many of you know, my day job with the Seattle Sports Commission, I like to leave you with a few sports highlights. to just bring you up to speed on all the news. So as Mayor Harrell said, the Seahawks lost 30-24 at home to the Panthers and have dropped 3 of their last 4 games, and now are on the outside looking in at the playoffs with a 7-6 record. They host the division leading 49ers Thursday night at Lumen Field on a game also carried on Amazon Prime. The Huskies are off until December 29 when they play Texas in the Alamo Bowl, while the Cougs play Fresno State this Saturday in the LA Bowl. UW coach Kalen DeBoer was chosen Pac-12 Coach of the Year, and he was rewarded with a contract extension through the 2028 season. The Kraken lost to the Lightning 6-2 last night and are 1-2 on their current 4-game road trip. Their record of 16-9-3 is still good enough to be tied for second in the Pacific Division. Argentina has reached the FIFA World Cup final after beating Croatia, and Morocco and France are playing right now to determine the other championship participant. France won. Thank you. There you go. It's going to be an exciting final match. And that'll be held on Sunday at 7 a.m. So get up early. And I know watching the matches has made me even more excited for Seattle to host our own World Cup in 2026 at Lumen Field. Now, even though it's not easy seeing our Seahawks lose, I was struck by a great quote of humility from quarterback Geno Smith last week. He was asked how he handled his time as backup QB over 7 years, wondering if he'd ever get the chance to start. Smith said, honestly, my tough times would be a dream to someone else. We are adjourned.